everything to look forward to.
They are arming.
Another world, another time, another existence, beyond the imagination.
So as you guys know, I always try to bring you stuff that you've never heard before, whether I like it or not. And I got some horror cult films that are coming out or already released that you probably didn't even know existed. So let's get into it. What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing 5 new releases that you probably didn't even know existed. We're going to get into them. These are movies that were sent out to me by MVD Entertainment. Thank you very much. They're from different boutiques. One is from MVD themselves. I got one from Arrow and a few others that we'll talk about. All the links and everything will be down below if you want to pick up a copy or pre-order it. Some of these are already out, as I mentioned. Now, as a heads up, these are movies I've never seen before. So I'm watching them the first time ever here, now. But I got some good ones and some bad ones and some weird ones. And I think you should check them out. So let's get into it. All right, guys. So starting out with Arrow Video is The Visitor on ultra high def 4K. Now, I didn't get the full release here, but they did give me the check disc, and I am going to buy this movie 100% because this movie is banana cuckoo. The Visitor came out in 1979, so it's part of that 70s crazy films that I always talk about that I'm really getting addicted to and have this specific taste for people who just like these weird films. 70s really goes there sometimes with some pretty out there stuff. Anyway, this is a movie that Arrow is putting out as a limited 4K release. I think you might even be able to get a Blu-ray of this as well, or they already have one. It's coming out February 17th. So the story of this is pretty out there, and you'll just have to kind of follow along with me as best as you can because this movie is just bananas. The story is essentially about this girl who has these telekinetic powers, and she treats her mom very poorly. And there's a reason, because somehow her soul is supposed to be some sort of ancient being, a being that exists sort of on a plane of existence that God exists. And somehow God defeated this character and didn't defeat them. So their soul sort of floats around in this like crazy space until it finds a host. And only certain people on the planet Earth can give birth to these types of beings. They are special human beings. And this child, through this woman, her mom, so that she can have a baby brother, perhaps maybe even
the Antichrist.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
And this little girl is the target of that ancient soul, if that makes sense. And she causes havoc in this woman's life to make her the mother of her new brother, taking God and the devil, turning them into aliens, basically having a war on Earth between good and bad aliens with telekinetic powers that remind you of movies like The Omen, The Exorcist. It's pretty out there. And technically, this is an Italian film that was intentionally made to be like The Omen so that they could make a lot of money, because that's what the Italians did back in the day. Now, this is by director Giulio Paradisi, who is an actor that sort of turned into a director eventually. He's known for doing one of his last films, which is Spaghetti House. A lot of Italian films that never really made it outside except for The Visitor. This is super psychedelic, like out there crazy stuff, man. Rosemary's Baby meets The Omen, The Exorcist, space Christianity, cosmic horror, and metaphysical science fiction, all mixed into one like weird 70s bizarre film. I think it's a really great oddball gem though, too. It's not the biggest I've seen, but it's definitely one that I'm gonna rewatch because I really adore a lot of these 70s science fiction sort of films that have become like cult horror films. You know, if you've ever seen The Demon Seed, that's one of those movies that this kind of reminds me of in a way. Obviously trying to be a ripoff, but they go so far out there to try to avoid being detected as a ripoff and try to be similar to it that it makes this weird movie that, I don't know, I just kind of love. Similar, but bizarre. And it's like bizarro, you know, if you ever seen that episode on C-Lab back in the day, 2021. Bizarro, I love you. Bizarro, I love you. That's this movie. I wouldn't say this is a super violent film, but there are some things that happen in the film that you're like, holy crap, that's like kind of dark. This little girl is like Satan pretty much, and she's acting like Damien, if you really want to say, kind of like The Omen 4, which a lot of people give me shit for liking that movie, but it's so bad it's goodness. I think this one is both entertaining and funny at times while being wildly aesthetic. Like the aesthetics of the 70s, not only do I like the clothing, but the actual like decor. I would love to put one of those little conversation pits in my living room and just dig it down, 4 feet and sit in there and like chill out. Well, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe take some gummies or something. Anyway, this is a wild film. It's got a young Lance Henriksen, groovy 70s decor, children with guns, and I'd give it a 7.5 out of 10 easy. Plus, it has some pretty great lines in it that one of the guys speaks in the film that I swear to God could be like a EDM hit if you put it to some fucking music.
Their forces, inhuman ones, out of this world, they're unspeakably evil.
You're hooked, and the only thing that can make you stronger is blood.
Up next, we got one from Visual Vengeance called A Date with a Vampire. And I knew what I was kind of getting into when I got into this film. I knew nothing about it. I knew nothing about the director. But if you look at the back, you can definitely see that there's going to be some action going on in here. And I don't mean high-flying action or, Van Damme style action. But this movie is made to be a kind of do-it-yourself underground horror film that somebody wanted to make that has a very peculiar taste that's for a very niche audience. This director by the name of Jeffrey Arsenault was a New York underground director that kind of tried to make a lot of really like something between Euro and New York style sleaze in a way, but done sort of tastefully, and then have this weird story kind of intertwined into it. He had done another movie called Night Owl with John Leguizamo in like 1993. This movie's from 2000, and it looks very different from that. This is definitely on the cheap, sort of like made with a VHS camera kind of feeling quality, or at least a digital one, and it's an erotic horror film about a vampire. It's getting its first time Blu-ray release here. It deals with a woman who is an ancient vampire who's really into that kind of pleasure, you know what I'm saying? As much as her victim's blood. And she likes to lure men from the club into her abode and then prowl on them and, basically either fuck their brains out or suck their brains out. Seems like a vampire. When she meets a new man at the club, he's a little different, and she's not used to his sort of understanding or forwardness. Things get pretty saucy up in the bedroom, and he reveals that he can't be turned as a vampire. And that's when things get really awkward. There's some things that happen in this movie that I really just did not understand. I don't want to pretend to act like this is a terrible movie because it's just not a movie for me. One, I'm very particular about vampire films, and I tend to kind of lean away from sort of the romantic side of that, but a lot of people really do like that, and I'm not faulting you for it. I've seen other movies that I like that David Bowie movie where he's a vampire, has a lot of real sexual tension, but it also has some aesthetics that I really enjoy, which was like that punk alternative goth scene from the 80s, and the movie is just insane. And that's The Hunger from 1983, by the way. This is no Hunger 1983, but you can tell that they definitely probably are fans of that movie in some way. Not exactly, but just, in the theme of love. There's not really too much gore in here, a little bit of practical makeup effects, There's an obligatory story going on that is connected to her and her past, but I don't feel like the movie really kind of made that as clear as it needed to be for me. And I really tried to pay attention. I watched this thing like 4 times, and it was 55 minutes long, so it's not even the length of a regular movie. So I felt like I could watch it again to try to pick up things that I was missing. And it's just this back and forth between this vampire and this guy. And there's a connection, I won't say, that you figure out sort of by the end of the movie. And I don't know, it just wasn't for me, but I'm always trying to be open to it. And maybe you'll like it if you like those like extremely sort of, you know, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Skinamax style vampire movies that are homemade. This might be your thing. But it's coming out February 24th from Visual Vengeance, who I usually love all their stuff, you know. They're more hits than misses for me because I love underground stuff. This just happened to be not for me, but maybe it is for you if you like those kind of movies. No hate whatsoever if you do. Links down below.
They look like us.
Up next, we got another one that's revolving around the end of the world and Christopher Lee. Yes, it's called End of the World, as a matter of fact. And it's been remastered by Full Moon, which, by the way, I'm a little late to the game on this one, but I did not think this was going to sell out very quick. Hopefully they have more on the way, because the Blu-ray sold out and the DVD is the only thing available. Let me explain it to you, and maybe you'll just pick up the DVD for yourself instead of the Blu anyway. The End of the World came out in 1977. It is a Full Moon early release like Empire. Charles Band put out and produced, and he had director John Hayes from Dream No Evil and Grave of the Vampires to direct it. Now, it's essentially about the end of the world, but done in a very different way, and I kind of like it for what it tries to do, but it kind of misses out on some of the atmosphere that it needs in order to have that kind of vibe. And I think it's because there's so many weird static shots that are done like the 1950s. It just doesn't work here. After seeing a man die in a strange accident, Father Purgado visits a retreat where he meets his alien duplicate who plans to conquer the Earth. There's a guy by the name of Professor Andrew Boren, who is a NASA researcher, and he discovers this weird, strange radio signal that's coming from the cosmos. Pluribus, I guess, is very similar to the sphere thing, which the signal seems to predict natural disasters that are occurring around the globe. And that also really ties into another movie that I feel like all these movies kind of borrowed from this movie. If you've ever seen that Nicolas Cage End of the World movie called Knowing, which is actually a pretty decent film if you think about it. I actually like rewatching it because I like end of the world movies, and this has sort of like an alien angle, and it kind of seems like that it borrowed from this story. But, you know, it's very similar to it because there are events that are happening and he can decode it, find out when a disaster is going to strike. So very similar to this story. So this may be like the nesting egg that like opened up all these ideas and all these other creators' heads to make all these different movies. Now, the acting is quite a bit dreadful, and it feels much more like a 50s movie that's really bad with the static laboratory shots that I was mentioning, you know, the mad scientist kind. Vincent Price, of course, plays the duplicate alien priest. I wouldn't say it really carries the film necessarily. This just kind of feels like Christopher Lee was in a movie. Not that he doesn't do a good job, it just doesn't feel like a good Christopher Lee movie. It feels like a, hey, I'll pay you some money if you just show up, and I'm sure he did a great job, which it seems like, but you can't save a film that was just not destined to be amazing. But even still, it's one of those movies that I think has sort of like this weird charm about it if you like digging deep in the boxes to find movies that you've never seen before, because there are some themes and things in this movie that I did find interest in. It just didn't blow me away. Like I said, it lacks the atmosphere that it really needs to kind of convey that sort of punch to make this film work. Plus, other than the intro of the movie where there's a priest that comes into a diner and throws a man through some stuff because the end of the world is happening, it really just doesn't have that many eventful moments. There is a couple of explosions, I'll give it credit for that. One killing bystanders horrifically with fire, by the way. That kind of tickles my fancy. And one giant one that could end the chance of a sequel, let's just say. I'd give End of the World maybe a 4.5 out of 10. It's got some stuff in it that I like. It's got some promises of some things that I wanted, but it really just doesn't deliver, and it's below average and kind of abysmal in a lot of ways. But I do like some of the ideas in here, and I absolutely hated the music that went along with this. But yeah. Watch this at your own risk. It could be a lot lower for you. But apparently people love it and have seen it and want to pick it up because it's sold out on Blu-ray. So check the link down below for the DVD that's much cheaper. Up next, we got Den Ace Chaos, which I've been getting into some tokusatsu stuff, which is live action, like Ultraman and like kaiju stuff that they kind of mix together. And this one does a little bit of both. But this one is such a deep cut of a movie that is based off so much lore in the tokusatsu universe that it is, for someone like me who's actually trying to pay attention over here, it's very difficult to watch. And I don't mean it in necessarily a bad way. It's just so fan service that you really feel like you're just not in on the joke. So essentially the story is about Den Ace. Den Ace is, well, he's trying his best. He's down on his luck, who through some bizarre circumstance becomes a costumed hero, or at least tries to be one, facing off against equally strange and inept villains and their outlandish threats. Den Ace stumbles through chaotic encounters with them with a healthy dose of awkwardness, unintentional humor, and just bizarre behavior. This is essentially a story that is based off an old Japanese superhero property called Den Ace from the 1970s. Now, the way I understand it, and what I got from some of the extras in this, by the way, thank God, one of the extras in here really broke it all down for you. And I think it was the only way I actually understood what I had just watched. Because it essentially, a character was made, a superhero was made for Bandai that was going to encompass all of the tokusatsu superheroes and be the head of that, you know, and be like, hey, here's my harem of Ultraman, you know, or whatever it was. And they were going to try to make a line of toys and all this other stuff. So Bandai did this and they wanted to make this character, but it didn't do so well. And it was during a time where I guess there was other things much better. The guy who directed it, by the name of director Minoru Kawasaki, he decided to continue on that lore and have sort of a revival. But it's not a normal revival like the old 70s series. It's his version of it. And he's that guy who did the weird Japanese movie called Executive Koala, where a guy's literally wearing a koala hat. I know some people like that movie, but I couldn't really get into it personally. I don't know. This guy is into some weird, chaotic, absurdist movies, parodies oftentimes of other movies and other lore and other things in Japan. He sort of likes to make you look at and go, you know, this is a popular thing. Maybe we should look at it in a very different way. Like tokusatsu. He's not aiming at tearing it down and making fun of it, but kind of making jokes at its expense as a means of showing you the nostalgia of these things and creating a story around the nostalgia rather than the actual lore. They're made cheap and they're made intentionally to be weird. He usually has aging superheroes, forgotten franchises, nostalgia culture, and how fans sort of cling to that childhood nostalgia and not think about anything else. I feel like I'm not in on the joke because I'm not part of that culture and I haven't grown up with those particular things. Although I think I can kind of relate in some way because, you know, we grew up with cartoons that we watched on TV and then they had toy lines and we bought all the toys and yeah, it was all indoctrination to buy toys, right? Make us buy shit. I don't know. Maybe that's just my take. Now, if you're a fan of this stuff and you grew up in Japan and you like tokusatsu so much that you know every single series that's ever been out there, and believe me, I'm going to try, you might be a fan of it. it's not for me necessarily, and I really genuinely don't know what to score this, that I was not really understanding, but I felt like I owed it to you and myself to try to figure it out. I honestly think this is a expert level tokusatsu film that is made for fans that are really well endowed with a tokusatsu sized, big thing. I have no doubt that it's well crafted. I just didn't personally get it. But if you do and you are a big fan, maybe this is for you, and you can pick up the Blu-ray or DVD from MVD now. Links down below.
I thought it was more of a cult.
All right, up next and last but not least is this bizarre, amazing little what the fuck movie. Blew me away. I had such a great time with this movie and trying to figure out what was going on with this movie. It really made me laugh pretty hard. Force 5 is a movie that came out in 1981. This is part of the MVD Rewind collection. This one's coming out on the 24th of February, and you can pick it up for yourself, and I highly recommend that you do. If you like so bad it's good cheesy action films, you really got to see this movie. So it's essentially about a martial arts expert who has a team of fellow martial arts experts who are similar to the A-Team in a way, who go out to rescue a senator's daughter from an alleged cult, who live on an island ruled by an evil leader of a fanatical religious cult, and his fortress includes a maze. How do I know this? They had a button for it in the movie.
We should have taken more than his legs. Find him, Karl.
That's how. This one is directed by Robert Klaus, who is the director, believe it or not, of some pretty big Bruce Lee movies, okay? He did Enter the Dragon, Game of Death, two big ones that I would say really made a big difference and an impact in the world, okay? Seriously over-the-top action and martial arts stereotypes to the nth degree, and these guys are all literally cartoon versions of different types of fighters in a team. Like I said, I mentioned the A-Team. It's literally like the A-Team, and they even make a joke about it in the film. In fact, you could say that this is a long A-Team episode that rips off the director's own movie, Enter the Dragon.
You're crazy.
Only replace Bruce Lee with the A-Team and send them out into this place to try to investigate what's going on. Even the cult leader, played by Bin-Soo Han, did a spoof movie of Enter the Dragon and played the villain of that spoof film called Fistful of Yen from the movie Kentucky Fried Movie. And here he is back in this movie, playing the fucking villain of a spoof. So it's just bonkers. They should have just called it Never Leave the Dragon, because apparently there's 3 films about the dragon and never leaving. Anyway, in order to tell you that this is a great team that's going to be put together, they talk about and go through each of the characters that they're going to bring into this Force 5, and they have introductions for each of the characters to be in this movie, and they are extremely different and extremely silly and just so over-the-top fun that I was laughing through each and every one of them. Plus, they have some great one-liners, one including a scene where they literally rip a person from their wheelchair, tie his legs to a pole in a car, and make a wish.
Fucking cripple. Telling you won't save me, you bastard. Make a wish.
I laughed at that for about good 10 minutes in the movie. I had to go back and rewatch what I was watching. I just got to give you a taste of some of the ridiculousness in this film. The leader of the Force 5 is this guy Jim, who he is played by Joe Louis, who's an actual guy who was trained by Bruce Lee in Jeet Kune Do. So yeah, he's like legit a real fighter. And he was one of the greatest point fighters in the 60s and 70s and literally won a heavyweight kickboxing championship. He was literally one of 5 people in the world beat Chuck Norris. How about them apples, Chuck? Anyway, we also have Benny the Jet, who is in here, who's a 200-time undefeated champion in kickboxing. There's a lot of talent in this movie. I mean, these are some real fighters, but my God, the storytelling was just not good, okay? It's not good in the best way possible. I would give this one an easy 6.5 out of 10, maybe even a 7 out of 10 on the so bad it's good action, silly A-Team wannabe Enter the Dragon-like film. It's really different with some of the things that it does in the film that will surprise you, make you laugh, even if it follows a similar pattern of Enter the Dragon. You gotta see it. And I seriously highly recommend getting this if you can on Blu-ray. It is definitely worth the price of admission for me. I'm gonna watch this again whenever I'm down. So thanks for sending this one out, MVD. I really love this one. But yeah, that's everything, guys. That is all of the films that I've watched this week on the new release. I never know what I'm going to get, and I want to share them with you because I think that these movies deserve some attention. Just because I don't like them, or just because like a large portion of people don't like them, doesn't mean there's not people out there who do not like them. There's people out there that like them. They just need to hear about it. And I'm your guy. So I'm going to try to help you find some stuff, you know, whether you like it or not, that you might want to watch anyway, and you might just find your favorite film by doing it. And that's the beauty of what I love to do when it comes to horror, is find new stuff that I can watch and share with you. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, let me know which of the films you want to check out, or which ones sound a little weird and you might take a risk with, or you know, who knows, maybe you already own some of these films and you can tell me what you think about them in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear from you. If you're new here, we're going to find you some new stuff. I guarantee it. Hit the like and subscribe button. We will bring you to the awesome lair in some way, some shape, somehow in every video that we have. So thanks for coming by. And as always, long live the void.